Support comes from Gemma, architects, planners, and designers seeking to bring joy to their clients and communities. Details at gemastl.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. That's the call and response early this morning at 6:45 of Sumner High School alumni. In what's become an annual tradition, the Alumni Association gives an energetic welcome to students on their first day of school. Only this year, they were giving that welcome in a new place, at Stevens Middle School. The May 16th tornado damaged Sumner High in the Ville neighborhood, so its students are going to Stevens Middle, about a mile away. As Sumner students got off the bus, the alumni cheered them on. St. Louis Public Radio's Andrea Henderson was there, and she joins us now to tell us more. Andrea, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Elaine.
So we get a sense of what things sounded like. What were you seeing there this morning?
Yeah, it was really a fun, exhilarating morning for the students. There were about 35 or so alumni there with maroon and white shirts on. There was a balloon arch to welcome the students in with maroon and white balloons. They had a DJ out there, someone on a mic kind of doing chants and singing songs. The alumni were hugging and greeting each other. Students were, filing in, but it was a really fun and motivating. If I was a high school student, I would have been motivated to come to school on first day.
Some hype there. Did you have some sense of whether there were people other than alumni? Were there family members? What was that like?
Yeah, there were some parents who stopped by to drop their kids off, whether they were walking them in or they were just kind of doing the car drop-offs. And then I also noticed a few neighbors who sat outside on their lawns and just kind of watched from afar.
Mm-hmm. Did you get some sense of how many people were there? Did it feel like there were a lot of supporters?
Yeah, it did. It really did. I mean, it sounded like more than about 35 or 40 people, but it was around that much. I know that what I really noticed was that alumni were standing on both sides of the door. So it was kind of like a little Soul Train line walking them in.
Oh, okay.
Some students were dancing. Some students were kind of, just walking in freely. But it was a lot of people just in that one particular area on the kind of side door of walking into Stevens Middle School.
Teachers and staff, did you see them? Were they participating? Like which side of this alley, the Soul Train alley, were they on? Were they inside?
Yeah, it was some teachers kind of like at the front door, kind of welcoming them in. Principal Rhonda Wallace, she came out. She was welcoming them in, greeting them from the bus, opening up car doors. She was really one of the first faces that they saw other than the alumni. But yes, there were some teachers out there, another assistant principal that I noticed. But mainly alumni out there.
And I do want to reiterate again, this was very early in the morning.
Yes, 6:45 a.m. And I actually spoke with one alumni member, Jeanette Strong, who came out and she stated, she had to be at work at 7 o'clock, but she jumped right on in.
We love our kids, we love our children, and we love our school. And it's very important that they know that. And so whatever we have to do, I have to be at work at 7, but I called and let them know I was coming down to cheer these children on and let them know that we care about them. They're important to us, they're important to our community, and whatever we have to do, we're gonna do to let them know that.
So Jeanette Strong, very strong motivations for being there. Now, understand that it is a tradition for the Alumni Association to be out there. Why was it different this time?
Yeah, it was different because it was in a different location. Typically, they do it at Sumner High School, but this year they wanted to make sure that they continued that tradition of greeting the students in the morning, the first day of school. And they did that this year at Stevens Middle School, but it was different because of the tornado, since Sumner High School sustained severe damage to its roof and other parts of the building. But they wanted to make sure, those alumni wanted to make sure that the students didn't miss a beat because they do it every year.
Mm-hmm. And for those who are not, familiar, why is it that Sumner High School is so storied?
Yeah, I mean, it's been around for 150 years now. I know this year they celebrated that annual celebration. And, it's storied because of the legacy of graduating so many accomplished African Americans here from St. Louis and those who have moved on. There are athletes, there are educators, there are rock and roll Hall of Famers that come from there. So that is why Sumner High School has a strong history and presence here still in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. And it was the very first high school for Black students west of the Mississippi, right?
Yeah, of course.
So you mentioned the 150th celebration of this school. Conversations that you've had recently with folks who were at that celebration, as well as this morning, what is it that they have shared with you about how they're feeling about the closure of the school because of the tornado?
Yeah. I actually saw a few people that I spoke to at the celebration earlier July, and they were at the first day of school today as well. Many of them were concerned about the building, the structure, the damage that happened from the storm, and they have been fighting to try to keep Sumner alive or open over the past few years. And the tornado, a lot of them think that it kind of exacerbated some of the issues that Sumner have had over the years. But they wanted to make sure that not only the community, but the district officials saw how strong they were and how committed they are to trying to keep this school alive by any means necessary.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about issues, what are the issues that Sumner and other schools, but specifically that Sumner has faced?
Yeah, over the past few years, they had some issues with low enrollment, with low grade point averages. And I know back in 2020, the district had proposed to close Sumner and a few other schools, but they ended up saving it through an arts program. And a lot of parents were concerned about their students who actually were coming to Sumner to go to the arts program, but if that arts program was still going to be alive at the middle school. And the principal assured that if you were a part of the program or anything that you were doing in Sumner, you will still be doing that at the middle school.
Mm-hmm. So there's some chain reaction kind of concerns then that have existed. Andrea, you also had a chance to talk with somebody else at this morning's rally or welcome for the students, Sumner students at Stevens. Who was that?
Yes, I spoke with Eric Oliver. He was very energetic along with the students. So, that's who I spoke to this morning as well.
And what was it that Eric Oliver shared with you?
Yeah, he talked a little bit about the tradition. He was one of the ones who really kind of put it forth to bring this tradition of cheering on the students.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that happened in the St. Louis public schools, as we started to shut down schools, some in the Ville area that was, ravaged by the drug epidemic and some other things, whereas neglect, and I'll say that from the city, the city's north side and the city's south side look vastly different. And so what happened is Sumner High School became what it appeared to be a dumping ground for students that they didn't want at other St. Louis public schools. So what happened was you put all these crabs in a barrel, and they had that mentality. So the next thing you know, there were fights going over at Sumner High School. There were disruptions going on, low attendance, the academic, and that's not, the academic scores were down, and we almost lost our accreditation. St. Louis Public Schools in and of itself, and Sumner High School was one of the things that was pulling it down. So as the Alumni Association got together, we said what they need are some adult presence in the building. But I know with more adults in the building, those things started to come down. They started to decrease. And so as the Alumni Association, it wasn't enough for us to just have event-based things. We need to do something not only for the students that were leaving Sumner, where we were awarding them scholarship monies, but we needed to make sure that their high school experience was what we enjoy.
And that was Eric Oliver, who is a graduate of Sumner High School and part of the Sumner High Alumni Association.
Yeah, he actually has a few mentors as well that he talks with, or mentees that he talks with, and try to help them continue on after graduation to figure out what their next steps are. So he's very active in the Sumner community.
So, Andrea, you cover race, identity, culture. You were there this morning at Sumner High School's first day at Stevens Middle. You were also at the 150th celebration. You covered it for the station. How would you say that what you heard and what you experienced kind of represents the beat that you cover and what Sumner's legacy is?
Yeah. When you think about Sumner's legacy, you have to think about what we discussed earlier, the history behind why this school even exists to this day. And it sort of really shows that not only was it greatness years ago, but these alumni are continuing to bring that tradition of greatness on down the line to the children that we have today that are attending the school. So I feel like that tradition, that culture, that history of being the first school west of the Mississippi to graduate Black students, it all wraps up in one as, I talk about my beat of race, culture, and identity.
Mm-hmm. Andrea, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Thank you.
Andrea Henderson is a St. Louis Public Radio reporter. We need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with a Sumner alumna who is part of the group who greeted students this morning. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio. Welcome back. I'm Elaine Cha. For me, the St. Louis question, where did you go to high school, has two answers because my family moved after my freshman year. Some Sumner students also now have more than one answer, but for a different reason. The May 16th tornado damage at Sumner has temporarily displaced them to Stevens Middle School, less than a mile and a half away. Sumner High School graduate Jackie Vanderford was among the alumni who gathered this morning at Stevens to welcome students to the start of a new academic year, a Sumner Alumni Association tradition with unique significance in the present moment. Miss Jackie, welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
Thank you, Elaine.
So what is it that you heard and saw this morning?
I saw students who were excited, and staff, and of course the Alumni Association that's been around since 2003.
Okay, since 2003. Oh, so it's been quite some time.
Yes, we became a group because of the St. Louis Public Schools Foundation. They had a grant if you wanted to have an Alumni Association. So we're their biggest group.
Yeah.
Sumner.
How is it that it made you feel to be there this morning with the students, with the staff? It was quite hot and it was quite early in the morning.
Well, I was inside.
Okay.
And they have air, which is a plus.
Yes.
I worked in non-air in St. Louis Public Schools for 40 years. Well, we finally got some air, but it was great. I think... what was I going to say? I forgot.
Mm-hmm. How is it that alumni prepared for this morning?
Well, it's such a tradition, so we just basically do what we've been doing, maybe with some extra here and there, but basically just to make sure that the students see us, because that's very important, that they see. As one students from Sodan one year at a game, he said, they got all those old people at the football game.
Oh, my goodness.
So that gives them the picture of what they will have to do, because legacy has to be carried on.
Right.
And you have to get the students involved in seeing that, hey, these people really care about us and our school.
What is your personal relationship with Sumner? What is it that makes it so special to you?
Well, it's one of my greatest accomplishments to be an alumnus of 1963 class of Sumner High School. My class was featured in the Ebony magazine because the principal gave out his 10,000 diploma. And the publisher of Ebony was our guest speaker for my graduation. But it was so much fun. You know, if you want to have fun in high school, it was, yeah.
What was it like to attend Sumner in the late 50s and early 60s?
Well, I was not there in the late 50s, but I came in 1960. And I had a girlfriend that loved Arthur Ashe.
Oh, the tennis
player. Arthur came in his senior year from Virginia because they did not let black people play tennis. So he came to Sumner, and he was kind of a loner. And so we would go say, hi, Arthur. We were like sophomores. Okay. And I told her later on in life, I said, we stalked Arthur Ashe. Isn't that something? So you were surrounded by people who had, great success and great goals, and teachers who wanted you to follow, on the shoulders of the people who helped us.
Did graduates of Sumner at that time tend to stay tight even after graduation?
Yes. My class, I don't know about all the classes, but some classes, like the 1970 class, had 5 tables at the 150th anniversary because their classmate, Reverend Earl Nance, was the guest speaker. And the class of 69 had 5 tables. So we have classes that really help each other and have reunions and party and have fun. We're getting ready for our annual event, homecoming event, next month.
Before we leave your experience at Sumner, we talked before this conversation, and going to Sumner was a very deliberate choice that you made. There are a lot of families wherein going to Sumner is a tradition, but for you, why did you decide that Sumner was the place you wanted to be?
Well, I was first of all, in Sumner's district. You had to go to the school in your district. I had 3 older siblings, and I followed behind them. And I really didn't have my own identity because I was like the little Vanderford, the youngest, the baby girl. So I told my parents, I do not want to go to Sodan and follow them. Okay. I want to go and make my own place. And I did. And now they sometimes say, I wish I had gone to Sumner,
Yeah.
But I just wanted to be with my classmates, too. From 8th grade. We had been together for a long time. So it was like, hey, I'm getting away from them.
Yeah. Well, 1963 was just 1 year before the Civil Rights Act of 64. And what was it about being in high school at that time that also made the history of Sumner something that was important?
Well, I think as a teenager in 1963, so many things happened. The Dr. King, the 4 little girls in Alabama that was killed, Medgar Evers. It was just, but I personally was not affected by it because it wasn't really in my mindset. But as I got older, I began to understand, 1963 was one of the most historic years in our history. We even had our dear President Kennedy to be assassinated. And a lot of civil rights happened in that year. Mm-hmm. But I was not cognizant of, of it really being a matter.
Mm-hmm. Did the relationships that you had with your fellow Sumner alumni, how did that continue to educate you as you grew older?
Well, the latest relationship, I was able to get donations from my classmates for the 150th anniversary. So we have a companionship, a relationship where we help each other because we were, low on money, and all I had to do was make a call to them, and they supported. Of course, it's their alma mater too. So
right.
Yeah.
And we started the conversation in today's show talking about the welcome tradition that the Alumni Association has. Why did that start back in 2003? Was there something happening at that time that made you all feel like this is something you needed to do?
Well, Sumner has been fighting since 1875 to stay open. It's not a new thing, from, in 1875, they were fighting to get a high school, and they gave them the worst school that they had, Washington School on 11th and Spruce. So the parents were fighting then for a better school. The next school was just as bad, and they fought to have that school built. So that's part of our tradition. We will keep fighting no matter what the issue is. We have the answer, and we will fight for that answer. I know Andrea mentioned,
Henderson, yes.
She mentioned, they've been fighting for 2 or 3 years. No, since 1875. We've been fighting for 150 years. Not all of it was fighting. But in 2003, there was a strong need to have support to keep Sumner open. So for the last 22 years, we have been fighting at different times. Dr. Adams came as superintendent, and his idea was to close Sumner. I guess that was one of his mandates. After we taught him, you have to teach people about the values. He began to understand, and I was president of the alumni at that time, 2008, and he always said, we started together. And we let him know that he would be the most hated man in St. Louis if he came here and closed Sumner, So he helped us. He helped us.
Right.
Yes.
What is the case that you make when you're having conversations about why Sumner should stay open, even when there is a decline in enrollment?
Well, it's a decline in enrollment in all the schools. When I started in 1967, we had over 100,000 students. Now we have about 18,000. So we do have too many schools for the population. That's the key. How do you answer that? We feel that in St. Louis, African American issues have not been addressed, or they've been closed down. This is something that has been continuously going for 150 years. It's a legacy. We have like 33 Tuskegee Airmen that went to Sumner, and that's a lot from one school. Yeah. So, it's so many areas that need to be learned, and we can teach about Sumner and understand that in this city, Blackness needs to be appreciated. Sumner is phenomenal. So,
how do you How do you teach people that? What does that education involve?
Talking to you, being on different shows, going to board meetings, having papers that describe. Even in our booklet that we gave out, souvenir booklet, it's a poem from Langston Hughes that he wrote in 1930 about Sumner. It's a poem to the students of Sumner. And one line in there, he talks about above the arch. It was like foreshadowing. Did he know we were going to have this great arch over us? But this was in 1930. So things like that. We have people like, I mentioned Arthur, the first black man to win the Wimbledon. So it's so much tradition that the city should embrace us. And I think the mayor has. She came to the 150th anniversary, and she was at Sumner today, and we talked.
Yeah. When we're thinking about and talking about Sumner High School, the word tradition comes up a lot.
Yes.
The word legacy comes up a lot. How is legacy less about the past and more about the future?
Through our students, they will carry on. Legacy is to be carried on. It's not to stop. And so that's our future. And we understand that each, decades have to step up and become the leaders. I'm 80 years old, so I'm on my way to rest. I fought my battles, but I'll never stop fighting for Sumner.
Right.
I'll never stop.
Well, part of that fight and the work that you've done was with the 150th celebration, which took place just this month.
In July 26th.
In July. And the planning that you've done also goes back to the 140th anniversary. What is it about those reunions or those gatherings that also is about the future and not, merely, quote unquote, merely sharing in nostalgia about the past?
What is it about when people get together? I think they see how much we bleed maroon and white, and that we understand that we have a jewel, and that jewel needs to keep going. In the Ville that sits on the hill, that structure that was done in 1908, the kids came in 1910. And the first staff was all white because the Board of Education didn't feel that black people could teach. So Alva Clayton, the first principal, was white. And it was so good. His family, his great-great-grandchildren came to the 150th, bought a table and a seat for a student to sit. And so we were real proud of that they understand how important Sumner is.
The damage that has occurred at Sumner because of the May 16th tornado, Miss Jackie, how much do you know about the extent of that damage?
I know we need a new roof, and we needed one before the tornado. So in different sections before, but after the tornado, we need a whole new roof. And I think that can be done. The building itself, I have not been in it. It's been closed off to the public since the tornado. But we have a beautiful building. It's air conditioned. The floors, marble. It's a beautiful building, and it should be kept open. I mean, you can fix a roof. I think of the schools, our Sumner had the least amount of money needed.
in order to get the repairs done.
And I think it was $2 million.
And this morning, you said that Mayor Kara Spencer was there. Was there any sort of conversation about support for the school, making sure that it does indeed reopen?
No, I didn't. We talked to kids, and she introduced herself as Kara, and I think the two students said, well, they said their names, and we took a picture together. But she spent a lot of time talking to students. But, this is continuous, so it will be a lot of time to talk about that.
At the 150th celebration, this, of course, it was planned and occurred after the May 16th tornado. Was there some sense or like a different sense of urgency around supporting the school because of that?
We will support the school no matter what. Tornado, hurricane, flooding, we will support the school because that's what we do. So it was a time for enjoyment more than how do we figure this out. But we did have a campaign where we asked alumni to call the guy, I know his first name is Square, he's over the buildings, to let him know that we need this. And he was bombarded with people.
With calls.
Yeah, and emails and things. So they did put a tarp on one part. The tarp only lasts so long.
Right.
And they had, it was one part of the building where the tarp was gone and the water was coming through. So that's just additional, work.
And I did drive by actually last week to kind of get a look at what was happening. So when you drive or walk by Sumner High School, there was a report that came out in late July about an architectural firm's suggestions about closures. And that over half of SLPS schools, it has been recommended that they close before the 2026-2027 school year. So that's next year. Are there concerns about that? How are you as alumni discussing the possibility of that?
Oh, I don't know about this phone. I'm so sorry,
That's okay.
Elaine. I don't.
You were a very busy woman. Yes, we saw you try to. Yeah.
The thing, thank you. We will discuss it. I mean, it's. I don't think that there has been a lot of discussion, but it's planning going on. We will, as I said, we will continue to fight. I don't care what somebody comes in and says. We will continue to fight to keep Sumner open. And I think we feel that once the roof is repaired and with other damage, it wasn't a lot of damage to the building itself. So once that's done, there's no reason why we can't go back to the school because we have excelled in enrollment and academics. We've gone up. So those were the things that they were real concerned about. The climate is different, so we've met most of the goals that they gave us. So there's no reason for it to close. And we're good. Do they need money? We can get money. So there's no reason.
Work your networks there.
Yes.
We talked about legacy and that it's carried on by people, through people. Why is it so important that the Sumner, not just the name and not just the history, but that the school lives on?
Because we're Black. And St. Louis has a way of not honoring the history of Black people in St. Louis. And so we want to be up there where everything else is, up high.
Where it can be. Like the ebony cover?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the story in Ebony. Yeah, it's so many things that happen. That's just,
What is the one thing that you want people to understand about Sumner High School that you, as someone who went to the school, that you know, and maybe others who did not go there wouldn't get in the same way?
What do I want them to know? I want them to know the history, the story. And it's so emotional. The story of Sumner will make you laugh, cry. It'll make you angry. So we're working on a book, Dr. John Wright and I, like a coffee table book that will be the Sumner story from 1875 to 2025. The story of how it all started. And I shared some of that with you when we talked. They had the elementary schools, but no high school. And so, as I said, it's been a battle. It didn't come easy to get Sumner, so we're not going to let it go easily. We're going to go on, forever as far as I'm concerned.
And you're bulldogs for a good reason, right?
Yes, we're bulldogs for a good reason. Yes. That's our mascot.
Jackie Vanderford is a class of 1963 graduate of Sumner High School, a retired educator, and an active member of the Sumner High School Alumni Association. Ms. Jackie, thank you so much for coming to talk with us today, and good luck with that book.
Thank you, Elaine. It's been a joy for me. Whenever I get to talk about Sumner, it warms my heart.
This episode was produced by Elaine Shaw.
Our audio engineer is Aaron Dorr. This podcast was mixed and edited by Aaron.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
The Gateway brings you the day's news each weekday from around the St. Louis region and the state capitals in Jefferson City.
Our schools are accredited. We don't need this bill.
And Springfield.
How many more years must pass before lawmakers see time is of the essence?
I'm Abby Larico. Join me each weekday for The Gateway on the STLPR app or wherever you get podcasts.